Dr. Mike, Mr. Mike, the bald man from YouTube who talks about training and his sexual fantasies a bit too often.
You happen to walk into your bedroom, and there are 3 random waifu Japanese girls that just couldn't wait for you to return.
Whatever you want to call him, he has been getting a lot of heat for the last few months. And with new controversies coming out seemingly every time Greg Doucette uploads a video, which is like twice per day, I thought it was about time to make something a bit less controversial. A few weeks ago, I posted this video titled Dr. Mike Can't Jump, discussing why Mike seemingly can't jump his own height, and I was quite bamboozled as to how he only managed to bench press his own body weight for 2 reps, despite being on PEDs and lifting weights for most of his life. I mentioned that he's now older and not focused on strength anymore, he also had that skin surgery, so let us dig deep and see how strong prime Mike Israetel truly was. Now, unlike a lot of people in the fitness industry, Mike's strength has actually regressed as he's gotten bigger, at least in the bodybuilding sense. Which is really odd, because usually when somebody goes on gear and gains 40 pounds of lean mass over 10 years, they tend to pack on some pounds to their lifts. Like how Larold Williams turned into Larry Wheels, or how Edward Holloway turned into Eddie Hall. But instead, Mike turned into a mechanically efficient rotisserie chicken. Now, Mikhail Alexandrovich Israetel, or just Mike if you're from America, came to the US when he was 7 years old back in 1991, and just like most immigrants, he decided the best way to assimilate into American culture was to become violently obsessed with lifting weights and later becoming obese. He started training at around 13 or 14 years of age, but there is no real documentation of his training from around this time, so I guess we can't even speculate on how strong he was a year or 2 into lifting. But then I started digging a bit deeper, and based on his recent comment about him being stronger than Mike Mentzer, I was honestly expecting some well-documented lifts to back that up, but I found something a lot different instead.
Motherfucker was around in 1982. I don't give a what someone from 1982 said about diet. I'm sorry. And like, you know, Mike Mentzer was impressive for his time, but he wasn't impressive in an absolute sense. Like, who am I compared to Mike Mentzer? Well, real talk, this is me just being Stewie, so I don't really need all this. I mean, in a factual sense, but I don't want to come off like a dick. I'm bigger and stronger than Mike Mentzer. And a lot of that stuff because I'm some amazing guys, because I've just been in the future as I've learned everything he did and then everything else.
First, I checked his open powerlifting results, aka his documented powerlifting competition lifts. And at first, I actually thought open powerlifting had the wrong Mike Israetel. I checked the spelling, the federations, the years, but no, this is him. Now, he started his lifting career off insanely well in my opinion, boasting a tremendous 370-pound raw bench at 181 pounds body weight at just 19 years of age, which is actually very impressive. A 2 times bodyweight bench isn't exactly common at any age, and it does put him at an elite level already in his first ever competition. But here's where it gets a bit foggy. You see, Mike only competed 4 more times in powerlifting, and his results didn't actually improve at all. In fact, his bench actually got worse despite gaining 39 pounds of body weight, and his best ever squat in competition was only 470 pounds at 220 pounds or 100 kilos body weight, with his best ever deadlift being just 500, both done at the US National Powerlifting Championships in 2008, giving him a standing total of 1,315 pounds or 596 kilos, which is around the same weight I totaled at 19. But I also do know that there are competition lifts which aren't in the database, since there is also this video of him squatting 463 pounds from 2007. Now granted, Mike was never much of a powerlifter. It was never really something he focused on primarily. He was always more into bodybuilding, so I went to check what his best ever lifts in the gym were instead, and to my surprise, some of his gym lifts are actually very impressive. First, I found this channel where Mike seemingly used to post some of his old gym lifts, and what I found there definitely outperformed his previous powerlifting records by a massive margin. First, his squat, which in 2008 was just around 470 pounds. Well, in 2011, Mike bulked up to a massive 270 pounds body weight, mind you he's short, and his lifts went up by a lot as a result. The best video I was able to find of him was this one where he squatted 562 pounds or 255 kilos for a very easy double in training without any knee sleeves, which means his true max should probably be somewhere in the mid 600s. There's also no video of him maxing out completely on deadlifts, but the best video I could find was this one where he hits 550 pounds for 5 reps with a small deficit. And his best bench on video was this set of 365 pounds for 8 reps, with a decent amount still left in the tank. So if we assume that his squat max was in the mid 600s, a deadlift max probably in the high 600s, and a bench in the mid 400s, that puts his theoretical powerlifting total somewhere above 1700 pounds or 770 kilos, which is actually pretty impressive. However, the most impressive lift I could find of Mr. Mike was this set of overhead presses where he did successfully put 8 full reps with 275 pounds or 125 kilos, which is honestly one of the most impressive sets of these I've ever seen. To put things into perspective, Ronnie Coleman did one set of 12 reps with 315 pounds, but granted he did it seated, which is much easier. Mike also did some pretty heavy rows and repped out more than 3 plates for sets of 8 on incline, so he was actually able to hold his own in the gym back in the day when he still had hair.
Am I the stupidest person in the world? At least bottom 5.
Was he stronger than Mike Menser? Actually, he probably was, since Mike Menser doesn't have any documented lifts of any sort, but Mr. Israetel was also close to 270 pounds when he did these lifts, and he arguably has very strong leverages for powerlifting. He has a long torso, short legs, and short arms, but not so short that they made it impossible for him to deadlift. Now, granted, if you compare him to somebody like Greg Doucette, who competed in powerlifting a lot, Mike doesn't fare as well, also due to him being in a higher weight class. But he was definitely a lot stronger than I personally imagined, considering how poorly he fares with heavy lifts nowadays.
This can work, but sometimes it'll have
non-consensual sex with your elbows.
Though I guess that's partially because he doesn't want to get injured and doesn't mind lifting lighter nowadays, even though I think his ultra high rep approach isn't the best even for hypertrophy.
You double your salt and water intake.
Still, Mike was actually a pretty strong guy back in the day when he was training more like the classic bodybuilding style with high effort, perhaps a bit lower reps, and all that good stuff, and it was probably the reason why he was so much stronger as well, since greater loads of course create greater neural adaptations, which just means lifting heavy gets you stronger. But what do you guys think? Was Dr. Mike or Mr. Mike stronger than you anticipated? And do you think he could have been better as a powerlifter rather than a bodybuilder if he ever put his efforts into lifting heavy instead? Let me know down below in the comments, and hey, around 80% of my viewers aren't subscribed, so if you enjoy the content and you want to see more like it, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It's free and you can always change your mind later on. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
After you lose in life, you're dead and there's no strip club, as far as I know. Unless you go to hell, I should think. You don't need to try to sound smart. You don't want to be a nerd with no friends. Trust me. Okay? I've seen it myself. I'll see you guys next time.